Hello everyone, Andy here. Welcome to the first explainer video on my series 5 reasons why you should consider investing in residential property. And today we're going to cover cash flow. So why should someone go and invest in property for cash flow when there are other options available? Well, firstly, of course, do you remember when interest rates were sometimes 5, 6, 7%? If you had money in the bank, you could get a really good income through that interest. However, it was only paid every, say, 6 to 12 months, and interest rates now are so much lower, you just won't be able to beat inflation with interest from a bank. Of course, there's also stocks and shares where sometimes companies will go and pay dividends, but again, they're paid very infrequently, maybe 6 or 12 months. And with the stock market, there's no guarantee that companies will even pay that dividend. Whereas if you look at property, there's an opportunity to get a really great income every single month. So why would somebody invest in property? Well, firstly, it may be to go and supplement the income that they're currently receiving from a job. So for example, they may be working but would like to go and get a little bit more cash on the side, and investing in property is one really good example. Secondly, they may just be trying to diversify where their income comes from. With uncertainty around jobs, they may just be looking at having a backup that gives them cash every month, and if they were to lose their job, they know that they will have that additional income. Or lastly, perhaps they're looking to go and leave that job. So by going and building up a property portfolio, they can go and match their income that they're currently getting, and then they can go and reduce their hours or even perhaps step away from their job completely. So I wanted to quickly go and show different ways that you can get money from a property. So that's why I've got the whiteboard behind me. Now do go and excuse my bad drawing. But the first thing I wanted to cover is a strategy called a single let. You may have heard of it. So if we've got our regular house, so maybe it's a 2-bed property here, and it's rented to a family or a couple. Generally, it will be on one contract, and they will pay on a monthly basis their rent every single month. Now, for a single let in this situation, there aren't that many bills. So you may have, for example, so this is the rent. In terms of bills, you'd probably have a mortgage. You may also have the insurance. And then in the case of flats, there may be leasehold fees or ground rent, etc. And you take the rent, you obviously have your expenditure each month, and then out of that, that's where you get your cash flow. And this is, of course, before tax. Now, for single lets, profits aren't that high. I mean, typically you'd be doing well if you get about £500 of cash flow after you've paid off your various expenses. And of course, you'd also need to pay tax on that cash flow too. So that's one strategy. For myself and Jonathan, we are really keen on great investments that give us a high level of cash flow, and that's why we go and invest in a different strategy in Southampton and Bristol, and that they're called HMOs, or houses in multiple occupation, and they're very well known in student towns where you get students renting out one house, all paying rent for the rooms that they're in, and it gets a great, much higher level of cash flow. So if you imagine, rather than one set of rent, we may have here 5 or 6, so 4, 5, 6. Now, of course, each of these individual rents is less than one rent you'd get in a single let, but of course there are more of them. Now, typically for an HMO, you'll also be paying more of the bills. So for students, they may pay their own bills, but for working professionals, you may go and pay utilities, so your gas and your electricity, the water bill, high-speed broadband, because the tenants are really keen on the internet, and other bills as well. So let's just add in here, just for example, we've got our utilities, and we've also got our, let's say, broadband. Okay, so much more rent coming in, more bills going out, but proportionately the rent is a lot higher. And then typically cash flow, we only look at investment opportunities that give a minimum of £1,000 profit per month before tax. So it gives you a much higher return on investment. And so this is what we invest in both in Southampton and Bristol. So I hope you found that useful. Cash flow is really, really important. Some people only invest just to make sure that investments cover their bills, and they just look at the capital growth, which we'll cover next time. But for us, it's just finding really great investments that give us that cash flow every month. Now, I hope you found the video useful. If you have, please do go and like it. And I would love to know from yourself, what would you do with that additional bit of cash flow every month? Let me go and know in the comments below, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.